Hi guys, this is Becky with South by Texas State, and we're sitting down with Carol Politi. Carol is the CEO of TRX Systems and is going to be speaking at an upcoming interactive panel called We Are Mapping Your World Inside What's Private. Hi Carol, thanks for talking to us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So let's start at the beginning, though this may seem really obvious. Why is accurate mapping important?
So accurate mapping is important. Primarily, it all comes down to location. Location is something that we widely now expect to have all the time, except when we enter indoor spaces. And outdoors, maps are used all the time to improve our location. When we're on the road, road maps are used to make sure that GPS points that are returned, are constrained to roads that we're actually on. So inside, maps are also helpful. If we can have an idea of the map of an environment, we can then tell you that you're on the third floor of that environment, maybe in the right side of that, and headed to the movie theater you want to go to.
We're also, beyond sort of just directions, are we talking also sort of use for emergency services or things like that?
There's all sorts of reasons why indoor location is important. Safety and security, frankly, is the first one. In fact, TRX got into the market by delivering safety and security services in defense and public safety. And just like GPS, which was deployed in those markets first, indoor location became important in those markets first. But when you think about things like E911, where there's been a lot of publicity lately, now that we're all on cell phones, it's really vital that we understand what floor someone's on and what building they're in, or if they can't be reached when they're in a time of need.
Absolutely. So TRX Systems, your company is working to deliver these kinds of locations, in areas that have historically been really tricky, like when we are indoors or we're in places where there isn't reliable GPS. Can you give us, in layman terms, sort of an explanation of how that's done?
Sure. One of the big issues with indoor location is you walk as soon as you walk through a door, you lose GPS coverage.
Yeah.
You need a clear view of the sky in order to get access to GPS. So once you go inside, you need something else to try to locate you. We've developed a technology using embedded sensors, the same kinds of sensors you'd expect to use in a gaming device that might be modeling the fact that you're bowling, to know that you're walking, and to figure out how far you've walked. The challenge with that is that they're prone to errors. So you need some way to improve that location, and we do that via maps. So when you walk up a staircase, we detect it's there, and we actually literally put the staircase on a map. If somebody else walks up that same staircase, we then improve the location of it, and then the more people who walk up it, the better we know where they are, and the map through that building gets built just like that. So while we're mapping, we're correcting the location of the people that are walking around the building.
Is this all using mobile? So is this all based on mobile phone and smartphones?
It's based on embedded sensors. So we started with a wearable accessory device because the sensors just weren't there. So we built our own wearable accessory, provide it to public safety and defense markets. And more recently, the reason this is sort of becoming prime time in enterprise and commercial spaces is those same sensors are now being embedded in the cell phones you and I use. They're currently in the higher end cell phones, but increasingly you're seeing that those same sensors crop up in new phones that are coming out today.
What degree of accuracy are we talking about? Once you've had a lot of people wearing these sensors or with these high-end smartphones walking around, how clear is the picture we're getting?
So that when it comes to the map, I'll talk a little bit about the map and the location. When it comes to the map, you're detecting things like stairwells and elevators, corridors, turns in a hallway. You're not identifying, what those things are, except that you might be able to infer that from the fact that people are sitting around a conference room table, for example. So it must be a room where people congregate. So you can kind of detect those landmarks. But we're not uniting them with the identity of the store, for example, that's at that site. That's a whole other layer of mapping. And there's a lot of people working in that today as well, aggregating that known kind of visual map data and the points of interest data with a map. What we're doing is detecting that this is a building. It has 16 floors. It's got an elevator running up the middle. It has magnetic features that are important for location and Wi-Fi features that you can't even see. But to us, that's a map.
Mm-hmm. We've been talking about the positives, but what are the privacy concerns for this kind of data?
So I think that it opens up an interesting set of privacy questions, and that is, how is this kind of mapping data treated differently when you go inside? How is it treated differently in a public venue versus a private venue? If you're walking around an airport, for example, is it perfectly acceptable to do crowdsourcing mapping data? If you're walking in my home, is that as acceptable to me? Is it a trade-off that I want to make as the owner of the house versus the person who's visiting me? So I think these are important questions to air and discuss as this kind of technology gets deployed, because it's so vital for so many security services, and so many of us want it for a better user experience. We also, at the same time, don't want to run into issues with privacy, and want to make sure that people are comfortable with its use. So there are parallels in the outdoor location space, and there certainly have been challenges in the outdoor location space as people mapped Wi-Fi, for example, outside to improve location in urban centers. You saw, a back and forth between users and the user community and vendors who were trying to deliver a good service. And I think in the end, it resulted in really positive privacy architectures being implemented.
What are your hopes for the panel? Do you have some solutions in mind, or are you really hoping more to start this conversation about what is the balance between privacy and convenience or security?
So both. I think there's some natural templates, and natural proposals you can make regarding what data should be private, what knobs should be given to the user who has the device, how you might treat different kinds of venues. And then I think there's also, a whole lot of benefits in opening this up and having both device manufacturers and users and application developers in a discussion around, what are the expectations? What are the knobs we should be putting in there? How should things be architected? There's good work being done here today, but not necessarily so much around this kind of structural feature mapping, and getting that kind of conversation and dialogue started is what we're hoping to achieve.
If you had one thing that you really just hoped the audience would take away from the conversation, what would it be?
I guess it would be how exciting the technology is, and how the industry can and should be taking measured approaches to making sure it gets deployed in a manner that everybody's comfortable with.
All right. Is there anything else that you'd like to add that you're excited about at South by Southwest? Is this going to be your first time speaking?
It will be my first time speaking. It's actually my first time at South by Southwest, so I'm excited to be there and looking forward to it.
It'll be, so we're a team of grad students, and it'll be all of our first time there too at Interactive. So I really hope that I get to see you, and I'm looking forward to your panel.
Great. I'll look forward to seeing you.
All right. Thank you so much, Carol.
Thank you.